guys, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel, and in today's episode of Sarah's Kitchen, by the way, let me know if you think Sarah's Kitchen is a good name for a cooking series, because I'm still not sold on it, so you guys let me know. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I make my homemade bread, and I have done so many different recipes of bread. I've tried so many. There's been a lot of trying and a lot of error, and eventually I found this recipe, and it's really the best bread recipe. The bread stays fluffy until the next day and the day after that. So I'm going to show you right now how I make it with just a few ingredients so that you can make it too. Alright, so let me take you over the ingredients. In here I have equal amounts of all-purpose flour and semolina, granulated sugar, sea salt, dry active yeast, and some fleur de sel. You could use kosher salt or whichever coarse grained salt you want. And here I have a mix of dried herbs. Today I'm using some rosemary, some thyme, and oregano. And then lastly, you'll need some warm water and a little bit of olive oil. Alright, so the first thing we're gonna do is add our warm water to our bowl. By the way, all the measurements will be in the description down below, so make sure you check that out. After we've added our warm water, I'm gonna add the sugar. And after the sugar, I'm gonna add my yeast. And I'm gonna give it a little stir. So what the sugar is going to do is that it's going to help the yeast bubble and, you know, foam a little bit, which is very important when you're making bread. And while this happens, we're just going to let it sit in here for a couple minutes. And while this happens, we're going to mix our flour. So we have our two types of flour here, and we're going to add our salt. So we've added our salt, and we're just going to mix it now. So this is what my yeast looks like now. As you can tell, it's super foamy, it has bubbled, and that's exactly what you're looking for. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add our olive oil. You don't have to use olive oil, you can use whatever oil you prefer. I'm using olive oil because I really like the flavor it gives. So I'm going to mix my olive oil in just a little bit, like a very gentle stir. And now I'm just gonna start adding my flour. I'm gonna add about half of it, and then I'm gonna mix it and then add the other half. Okay, so now I'm gonna add my dough attachment to my stand mixer. You don't have to use a stand mixer. I've done it by hand before. It turns out just fine. Okay, so my dough was kneading for almost 10 minutes. As you can tell, it's nice, it isn't sticky, it's kind of, you know, a nice little blob, and when you leave a little dent into it, you want it to bounce back just like this. So yes, now that we're done, we're just gonna cover it with some saran wrap, and we're gonna leave it somewhere warm to rise for about an hour or so. Okay, so I've just pulled out my dough from the oven where it's been proofing for about an hour at 42 degrees Celsius. As you can tell, it's literally tripled in size, and that's exactly what you want. Alright, so let's shape our breads. Right here I have some semolina that I've put on my counter so that we can start shaping our breads. We're gonna pull this out of here. Now that we have our blob of dough onto our floured surface, we're just going to start working it, but very gently because we don't want to make our dough really tough. So all I'm going to do is really just bring it together into a nice ball. Now with this dough, I'm gonna make 4 little breads. You could make 2 big ones or even 1 really big one if you wanted to, but I find it better to have 4 separate ones. So I'm just going to separate my dough into 4 sections. Okay, so here is what you do. You bring in every little corner in the center and you try to shape, you know, a little ball. Once you've shaped it, you want to put it down and you want to start flattening it so it can keep its shape. And you do this with your hands because if you were to use a roller, it would knock out all of the little air bubbles, and that's not gonna help your bread be very fluffy. So you want fluff, so you do this with your hands. I like my bread to be nice and fluffy, so I don't flatten it out too much. And that is pretty much it for all of the prep, you guys. It's literally so simple, comes together so easily and so quickly. Now all we're going to do is that we're going to let them rest and rise for about 30 minutes, and I'll show you what they look like when they're ready. Okay, so as you can see, our bread has risen quite a lot. It's just been sitting covered on the side for 30 minutes, and now we're ready to season it and put it in the oven. So right here I have a little brush and some water. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lightly water it just on top so that when we put our salt and our spices over it, they can adhere to it and not fall off once it's cooked. Technically you could use olive oil for this step. I prefer to use water because I find that it's what alters the texture the least. A lot of people don't even do this step at all. I like to do it because I find that the spices just don't adhere to it if you skip it, so that's why I do it, but you could skip it as a whole. Now I'm gonna sprinkle my fleur de sel on top, just like so. And this is going to give our bread this salty bite that's just going to be super delicious. You want to be generous with it. Then for two of them, I like to season them with a little bit of my dried herbs blend. So I just do two of them, and I just put it on top of the salt like so. Now, a little tip, but a very important one. Before you put your breads in the oven, you want to fill a bowl that goes into the oven with some boiling water. And you want to place it in the rack right under your breads in the oven. What that's going to do is that it's going to help your bread stay moist. It's very important. You definitely don't want to skip this step. I used to never do this before, and once I started, it was a complete game changer. We're just going to put our bread and our boiling water in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, and that's it. I'll show you what they look like when they're ready. Alright, you guys, so my bread just came out of the oven. It's still super hot, but it already looks amazing. The whole house smells delicious. I'm gonna cut into it with you guys. I've been waiting to do that, and look at this. It's super fluffy, super pillowy. It's incredible, and you don't even need a knife to cut it. I just wanted to do a clean cut, but really you could literally just tear it apart with your hands because that's just how soft and amazing this bread is. I already know what this bread tastes like because I make it pretty much every single day lately because that's just how good it is, but I will try it with you guys. Just a little bite so I don't embarrass myself. So good. You guys have to make it and let me know what you think. This is a fail-proof recipe. I'm sure everybody can do it. Alright, you guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed making bread with me. If you did, make sure you leave it a big thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of me and more of my cooking, make sure you click the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! Oh my god.